Let's get started for today. Welcome to the third session of this high value business analysis course. The idea of this course is to stay to the point and explain only things which really matter to the business analyst. Because as a business analyst, you may learn 15 different things, but you implement maybe 3 or 4 major things. So, and also how effectively to implement or use those particular skill sets is the objective of this course. So last week we actually looked at how do you get into business analysis. So what is business analysis all about? What are the different role types? How can you actually move into business analysis? How do you become a domain expert, and so on? The second session was more about agile and understanding how to create a requirement plan, how to gather requirements by conducting effective user interviews. Today, quickly, we'll have some sort of interaction, and I will need inputs from you on let's say you are the clients, I'm the business analyst. Let's try to understand how to build requirements. So after this session, you will kind of get an understanding, you'll also feel comfortable with building requirements, because in order to build requirements, you need to have a certain kind of mindset. Also should be able to listen to conversations and kind of convert that into requirements. So that skill that's the first session for today. We'll focus on that. The second half will be focusing on creating use case and user stories. We'll also look at how to look at behavior driven development stories, which is BDD kind of stories, which is pretty popular these days. So BDD, which is a Gherkin style of writing. So we will look at those. So the focus for today is completely requirements. How do you understand requirements? How do you capture it? I also look at in what format you need to capture it. Okay, so if you remember what happened was we looked at BA roles, landing a BA job, demonstrable asset, storytelling. Storytelling is, again, I will cover that when we do design thinking. So we did requirement planning, user interview, and agile. Requirements management is what we're going to cover today. So let's get started. So when we are building requirements, what is the kind of skill level we must have, right? So I'm going to ask you folks to tell me what kind of requirements do you want to capture? Okay. It could be, let's say, from a specific domain, e-commerce, or let's say it could be from healthcare, or it could be anything very basic. Okay. Let's say we are building software from scratch. So how do you kind of build requirements? So this is something that we're going to look at now. Let's keep it interactive. I want you folks to kind of tell me now, what would you like to see as in terms of what requirements can we build, right? What domain shall we pick? Quickly, what domain shall we pick? Anyone? Okay, so let me do one thing. For ease of understanding, let's pick e-commerce. Okay, so we'll pick e-commerce site or e-commerce application. Let's say we are building a new e-commerce application, and you are all the clients who are giving me requirements. Okay, so this is an e-commerce application for which we're going to build a requirement. We will start building requirements. So firstly, what are the main headers for an e-commerce application? What should you be able to do as a user? Okay, so let's understand what does the e-commerce application do. E-commerce application, you should be able to search for products. Okay, you should be able to add products to cart. If you remember, this was one of the examples we gave last time. You're adding products to cart. Okay, then you can say make payments. If you don't like it, you're going to return products, right? Then you will also get to rate products get to rate and review products. What else can you do? You will also let's stick to this. So you see, these are high level functionalities that you want, right? So once you have this, let's pick search product. Now what we're going to do, let's say search products. So we picked up something which is very basic. So e-commerce site, everybody shops. So for ease of understanding, let's say we picked up this. Now, if you have to build an e-commerce site, you will have to have, you should be able to look up products, you should be able to add it to cart, make payments, return products, and also review if you like it. So this is, let's say, a typical customer journey, which is a happy journey or a normal straightforward journey. Now, under search products, what can you do? You will have multiple categories of products. Okay. For example, let's go to Amazon.com, for example. If I go to Amazon.com, I'll be able to see the different products. Okay, you have different departments. So let's say you want to shop by department. Let's go to Amazon.in. So you'll see that there are multiple categories here. Under that, you'll see that shop by department. So what you will say, I want to shop by department. I want to search products. Let me be a little more specific. Let's say search. Under search, you have all these categories. Search by categories. Search by categories is one functionality. Under search by categories, we're going to break this into what else can we do? Can we deep dive a little more under categories? Let's say I picked Amazon fashion. And I clicked shirt. What should I see? The search, I should see search with the sort feature. Shirt with different categories, subcategories. I can search by subcategories as well as search by sort. I can also sort, right? Just search by and I will say sort search results. What else can I do? I will also look at maybe rate and review. We'll look at it later. You can also filter search. Filter search results by right. So these are some of the areas on which you can filter by price, filter by discount, filter by item. So all these will come under this particular. So you see how specific we are getting. New arrival, pay on delivery, item condition. Let's pick some basic ones. So this way you will see that you will start with some, when you say search product, these are user actions. So what is the user actually trying to do? What are they trying to achieve? They want to look up products. And how do you look up products? So that's it's not even an epic. So you look at something like a high level feature or MBI, right? So let's say I want to be able to search for products. It's pretty huge. It's pretty broad. So here you may say minimum business increment, or you will say it's a big functionality. It's a feature, let's say it's a feature. Under that you have, this is called a sub feature. Sometimes this is also called epic. Under epic you have, okay, you have stories. And sometimes if these stories are too big, you will have to break this down further. And sometimes, see, it's always debatable whether this should be an epic or a story. Now, again, depending on the complexity. Now, what determines whether a particular functionality or a story or a functionality is a story or an epic depends almost on the size or the estimate. It always depends on effort. It depends on story point. So let's quickly understand this. So what's happening here is you need to look at also the estimation part of it. So estimate, the story point estimation actually tells you how much of dependency and what do we know about it. So let's quickly understand story point estimation. This will actually tell you whether a epic must be whether this particular functionality is an epic or a story. Okay, so how much is known about a task? If you know everything less than 2 hours, it's usually one story point. This is again a thumb rule. So there are a lot of permutation combinations. This is one of the effective methods of kind of identifying what should be the estimate. Now again, depending on the composition of the team, the way you look at story point sizing will vary. But it's better to consider all these factors while you are actually doing a story point estimation. What is story point? So each story point is roughly about 8 hours of work. Okay, so one story point is usually 8 hours of work. So that is what you need to look at. When you say 2 hours, it's mostly coding effort or whatever. Then there's testing effort, and there could be other layered efforts. So which would roughly work out to 1 day of work. So one story point here. So if you know almost everything and there are no dependencies, then it's about, and it takes about half a day, it's about 2 story points. So like that, if you see there are some gaps in the requirements and there is some ambiguity, then the effort goes up. So what they also say is, if the story point size is anywhere between 1 to 3, it's usually good to keep it as at a story level. It can be a story. If the effort is more than 3 story points, then usually it becomes an epic. And if you see that way, you can then your minimum business increment or a feature can have multiple epics. At this point, right? So this could be an epic, and sometimes this could also be argued as a feature. How do you do that? It all depends on the effort. But looking at the Amazon website, it's pretty easy. So you will see that this particular search by category itself will become a feature. When you say it's a feature, then you will have to break this down further into multiple epics. So then if this becomes a feature, all these will become epics. When these become epics, so this will be a story. All right. So it all depends on the complexity of the story, and there is no hard and fast rule as to why a particular feature or functionality should be an epic or a story. Remember, if it's roughly between 1 to 3 story points, then it is qualifies to be a good user story. Sometimes there are a lot of teams which have bad practices where they either don't story point it or put effort to the story, or they randomly put 10 story points, 15 story points. which really doesn't make sense. What it actually means is you're defining something functionality at a very high level and you're expecting a developer to develop this. So you should make it as specific as possible. For a business analyst or for a product owner, even for that matter, for a product manager who is writing these stories, should keep in mind that you have to write as granular stories as possible. This only tells you how comfortable you are with that particular domain and understanding of the requirements. The more comfortable you feel about the requirements, the more specific your requirements get. Otherwise, you will define something very vaguely. So the behavior driven developments gives the opportunity to the business analyst or the product owner to look at things at a more granular detail. This puts the developer at ease, and then they're also able to cover a lot of corner cases. This, however, increases the effort required by business analyst or product owner, but this way you are able to cover all the necessary scenarios that are is necessary to complete one functionality or feature. All right. So now I hope you got the point on how this particular, we have been able to break it down. Let's pick, one story, which is by price, search by price. So how do you write it? So we will write it in the form of a user story. We will write it in the form of a user story. Then take it from there. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be able to take those as we move. So as a whom are you writing this story for? As a customer. Vaishali, you had a question? What we are doing is here we are looking at how do I write a story for pricing. As a customer, I want to filter products by price so that it again depends what is your style of writing. But here we are trying to mention the benefit of writing it in this format. So what we are trying to do is how do I provide search filter by price so that we can reduce the time taken to shop for a product. Okay, the objective is how can I enable this feature wherein the user can search a product by a certain price range. So please tell me if this story is enough for somebody to build a feature for this particular customer. Anyone? Is this information enough? And if I provide a wireframe, is it enough, or what should I do? Hello, anyone? Any business analysts?
Hi, Prashant. So you have, can you give us some idea about wireframing?
I will. Wireframing will happen next week, Vidita. Next week, I will cover
Okay.
framing. I will cover process mapping, etc. It will become easy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, tell me, all of you on the call, tell me how you're going to work with this. Is this enough for you to build as a developer? Will you feel comfortable to build that functionality? Let's say even if I give you the wireframe, or let's say I don't give you the wireframe. Wireframe may make life easier, but how can I demonstrate this? So there can be some gray area. Now questions can be, as a customer, I want products by price. So then you want to understand how. Yeah. Sorry. So this is not enough. So how do I filter products by price? What should be the price range? First question. Where should I see it? How should I be able to set the price range? After I set the price range, how should I display the price? So these are certain questions which a developer will have. As a result, you need to, that's when, behavior driven development will help in, detailing out this particular user story very nicely. Traditionally, what happens, I will give you this user story. I will also explain it in the form of wireframes as to where I want to see it, how do I want to see it. You give the flexibility to the developer as to develop it the way that is required. And then it is used by the, your UI developers to code it. So is this enough or not? So there could be some gray area. And so what happens, the developer keeps coming back and validating if this is enough, and there will be a lot of back and forth questions. In order to reduce this, what you can also do is use the behavior driven development approach. What is behavior driven development approach? So it is a given when then format approach, where you're trying to capture all the possible actions that a user will take to use that particular functionality. So there is always a given, which is a precondition or a setup, very similar to use case. Then you're saying when the action, then basically you're saying what is the result of that action. Always remember, it works like Newton third's law. Okay. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay. That means what happens is when a user interacts with the system has to also, return, should also behave in a certain way. So every action by the user will have an equal reaction by a system. The system has to do some sort of, will also provide some sort of reaction. So that is how you should imagine writing stories also. That, given, there is a certain precondition. When the action is done, then the system reacts in a certain way. And you can add other, see, the and is basically to combine multiple corner cases, or sometimes you can add multiple conditions. It's like saying, as a so if I click on this button and submit, the system must display a message and also send a email notification to this user. So you see, one click of a button must do two actions by the system. So then, using this AND function will be very useful. Okay, we will look at more details, but is rarely used, so we will not use that. So mostly it is AND, you can say, or. Or is also used. So this is an alternative. If either this or that, okay, so any one of that. We'll look at some of those scenarios. So what happens here is, in the BDD format, we follow Gherkin format. Okay. So the BDD is nothing but behavior driven development. So we'll use behavior driven development, which is one step ahead of the user story, normal user story writing, which will capture all the different scenarios. Okay, so it will have a feature, it will have multiple scenarios. Scenario is very important. Each scenario will have given, when, then. It will have an and, if necessary, or an or. Did anyone have a question? Okay. Are you comfortable so far?
Yes.
So let's look at it like this. Now, since you are not giving me the requirement, I'll go back here and see what I can do. I'll pick something more comfortable for me. Let's say, so this is one way of displaying. Okay, so what else can you write here? Now I just told filter by price. Question here is, how do I display it? Now I will deep dive a little bit to explain this. Now when I click under 100, 1 second. Sorry about that, I had to drop off. There's some Wi-Fi issue there. Okay, so we were looking at understanding how to do this, right? So let's click on one of them and study the behavior. Okay, so you see, there are 2-3 different ways of kind of filtering on the products based on price. One, we did it from the main page. The other one was, once you display, also you're going to look at price low, price high, price low. You see there are different scenarios here. This is one scenario, this is second scenario. Other scenario is appearing it on the featured list. This is scenario number 3. If I go back, this is scenario number 4. So this is actually scenario number 1. When I click on this, let's quickly do that. Now we have written a story. You have to write the scenarios for it. Okay. So what is the condition for this? You are already on the product category page. What did I do? I selected or searched for books. I clicked here and clicked books, and I'm here now. Okay, so I have to have selected a product category. That's what I did. So the functionality here that I want to define is basically, the first I'm saying what is the precondition, which is given that the user is on the product category page. This is a given. This has to happen before
Prashant, you are speaking unmuted.
So,
Hi, Prashant.
yeah, sorry, you weren't able to hear me, right? I was on mute, I think.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now what we are going to do, what I was talking to you about is now we looked at the Amazon search category. We are now going to get into details. So just by writing a story which says, as a customer, I want to filter products by price, is not telling the complete story. And sometimes you have to depend on a lot of talking during the grooming, and it will also lead to developer coming to you a lot of times. So there's a lot of back and forth before you can finally freeze on how the behavior must happen. Therefore, by writing stories in the behavior-driven development format, you are reducing the frequency of clarifications, also bringing complete clarity and scope of that particular functionality. Here we are looking at how to filter a particular product category, and then how do you filter a particular product by price range. Now, to do that price range, we looked at how it can happen in two different scenarios. First was that the given user must be on the product category page. If you see, I selected the product called books, product category called books. And because I selected the product category books, it landed me into the specific product category. In this particular product category, I should be able to filter by a certain price range. Also, it is possible that you can even give examples within the user story when you write it in the BDD format, which is also called as example mapping. Every time you write a story, you can add an example to quote a scenario on how it should be done. For example, we are writing given the user is on the product category page. This is a given. When the user, let's say given the customer is given the when the customer selects a price range, then let's say search results, then display search results within selected price range. So here we are using given when and then. This is scenario number one. So when you're actually writing a user story in Jira also, when you create a Jira, or whether you're doing it in Confluence or you're doing it in Azure DevOps or any other requirement tool such as Rally, etc., you will, once you write the story, when you create a user story, when you say create user story, you will create this story. Underneath, you'll start mentioning all these different scenarios. Let me see if I can open Jira for you. I want to create a story. Under the story, I want to say search by price is the summary. Here, I'm going to mention this is a requirement tool, right? I hope most of you are aware of Jira. Even Azure DevOps or Rally would work in the same format. So don't worry about that. This is a user story that you're writing. Under that, you are going to mention scenario number 1. You're making the life of a developer so easy by doing this. Okay. They will thank you for giving this level of clarity. So here you mentioned given the customer is on the product category page, when the customer selects a price range, then display search results within a selected price range. Okay, this is one category. This is one scenario, sorry. Next is every page can have a different name. Let's say I'm calling this featured page because once you select the price range, that was one scenario. Now we are come to the featured page. Now let me call this as a featured list or the featured page. Until you don't uniquely call it as a certain page, it becomes difficult. So here you call it as a featured page. Given the user is on the featured page, given the customer is on the featured page, when the customer selects what is missing, it's not complete yet. If you see, the feature is a little tricky here. What is happening is I don't directly say price select. There are two options under price. I will say low to high or high to low. I have to capture both these. So I will have to create two scenarios for this. First scenario is price low to high. See, when the customer is on featured page, when the customer given the customer is on the featured page, when the customer selects price as a filter and the customer selects high to low option, then, so you see how the and comes into picture. When you have 2 or 3 different conditions which you want to capture, saying this plus this must happen only, then do this, that's when the and comes into picture. But let's say you had an or option. Either I select option A or B, still send an email to this customer. Then that is when you bring in or. Get it? So here, firstly, the customer has to be on the featured page. Click on the filter, select price, and the price selected here is high to low. Okay, low option, then display search results within the selected price range. I have to capture this. If I don't tell the developer about high to low and low to high, it will be very difficult for them to work. Now they may have some basic questions like, do you want high to low on top or low to high on top? What should the filter look like, etc. That's where the wireframing will help. Okay, we will cover wireframing completely in next class. But for this time, we were going to focus on requirements only. I'm sure you're comfortable so far. If you're not, please let me know. So our option is to select price low to high, price high to low. So did we capture those scenarios? Yes. So how many scenarios did we capture? We have captured 3 scenarios. So now tell me what other scenarios you can add here. For as a customer, I want to filter by product so that I can reduce the time taken to shop for a product. One is I'm going to select by a particular price range. What are the other corner cases? I'm going to add one more. I could think of one. So the beauty of business analysis in giving more granularity, giving more specificity to the requirements. If you are speaking very vaguely, it means the requirement is not very well understood. So spend enough time to do all sorts of permutation combination. The more number of scenarios you have in your user story gives complete depth. And here is where the effort estimation happens beautifully. You know the level of effort that goes into. See, usually people struggle with the effort. So here is where you may not deliver in time or you may not deliver at the right price. So all this will be handled very well. So for a business analyst, requirement gap should not be there. You should be able to complete requirement, clarifications, etc. by a specific period of time. So all these requirement clarity, all these are your metrics that you need to manage. Now, if you remember, let's go back. You see the number of rows that are existing: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there are 5 rows or 5 options, 5 price range options that are shown from which I can select. Okay, so I have to indicate that. That is another corner case. I need to indicate. You should not have like 0 to 10, 10 to 100, these kind of things. So here, anyway, you may show it in wireframe, may not show it. Better to call this out as a corner case. Corner case could also be when I click on over 1000, show all the products which are greater than 1000 in the inventory. And I should also call out one scenario which says, it should display 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rows only. Given the customer is on the product category page, when the customer selects a price range, then display the search results. How can you write this? Now it's a pretty little tricky, right? If I have to show as a story to display, given the customer is on the product category page and the customer selects a price range and the price range shows only 5 rows of, the price range shows only 5 rows, then display search results within selected price range. Sometimes you can ignore this, but it's always good to capture this, okay, which is a corner case. You want to show this. You could also add one more which says display. Now let's say go back. What you're doing is you're doing a lot of permutation combination to understand how it's working. When I click over 1000, what happens? Go to high, still have the publication date. Is there any other price? You see. So you see there is one more option. So here you will see that if I select anything above 1000 rupees, it is giving me this option which shows show 1000 and then give an option with a field to enter any number. And when again you see when I say 0, it's still displaying. So there is no validation that's happening. This is basically for user experience. It's not telling it should be greater than. Okay, so it's again brought me back here. When I click on over 1000, so you see what is happening. So there are already 3-4 other extra scenarios. When I enter 0, it's not doing anything. It's still in the same page. When I enter anything greater than 0, it is bringing me back to the main product category page. Good. This is a corner case. These are called corner cases. Now let's say when I click on 200 to 500, what happens? Does it show me the price? Yes, it shows me the price range. So that's one more corner case for me. Are you comfortable so far? All of you on the call? If you disagree, it's okay. Please let me know. If you've done it in any other format, that will we can also discuss that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to capture the option where if I enter 0, it still stays on the featured page. If I enter anything value greater than 0, it will go back. So given the customer is on the product category page, isn't the product category page? No, this given the customer is on the, this scenario may come here. Because this is on the featured page, this action is happening on the featured page. Let's mention it there. So we have scenario 1, we have scenario 2, 3, this is 4. Scenario number 5. Given the customer, so here we are saying given the customer is on the product cat, no, not on the product category page, featured page, we're on the featured page. Okay, the customer has to be on the featured page when the customer selects a price range before that I have to mention that there is an option, okay, and the page displays I'm saying when the customer selects a price range as 0, let's go back here. So another interesting thing, I can change this to, so it's almost like, doing a tester's job, like, writing a lot of these test cases. It can get a little complicated, but it's always good. So if you do anything of the way, it actually takes you back to the product category page. Now let's say again, I click 200 to 500. It lands me on the feature.
Sir, uncle took it away. He said small kids should not eat that. It's not good.
Can you go on mute, Shrikant?
Sorry.
So coming back here, now let's say I'm going to enter 1000, or let's say I'll enter 0 here. 0. It does nothing. I'm still on the same page because I entered maximum as something, right? I entered 1000. So you see, this itself will have anywhere between 10 to 12 different scenarios. Just this search piece at minimum. So you have if I enter max, min, max, these kind of scenarios. So coming back, let's look at this. Are you getting what I'm trying to do? The kind of complexity I'm trying to capture, folks. Anyone? Are you there? So I understand this is a little tricky, right? So for a user story to build this level of clarity takes a lot of effort and understanding. So let's quickly build one scenario and then we'll switch to the next topic. That way, this session becomes a lot more easier. So what we started off with understanding how to build a requirement. So we midway switched to user story writing. Under user story writing, we started talking about BDD. Now we'll again go back and pick up one more scenario to work with it. And the page displays price range. Now, given the customer is on the featured page and the price displays a price range option, when the customer selects a price range max as 0, then display search results, then system should retain the previous featured page results. So if I enter 0, nothing must happen. But if I enter some other range like 1000 or any other number greater than 0, then automatically it must take me back to the product category page. Let's keep that simple. Okay. So that way we will be able to close on the number of scenarios. Otherwise, we can actually have 10 to 12 different scenarios. If I select price range max greater than 0, then the system should display okay. So this way we have captured 6 scenarios. So this will give a developer a good understanding of how the system must behave when a user takes a certain action. Now he is able to understand as a developer on the product category page, you're able to see the search price range. You're also able to select price range as high, low, high on the featured page. There is also an option to select maximum and minimum price range on the featured page. You're also explaining how that particular system must behave, whether to stay on the existing featured page or move back to the product category page. So this is what we captured. So doing this story itself, I think this is this particular user story is pretty huge. So here this effort will be pretty high. It could be 3 or more, 3 story point or more. I think the estimation you should leave it to the tech lead or the technical architect. But overall, I think you got an understanding of how this is done. Now you're able to hear me. I think you got a good understanding of how to capture this in Jira. Now you created this in Jira. Now when you so Jira or any particular requirement software right? Nowadays, earlier what we used to do, we used to write it in an Excel sheet or we used to write it in a Word document page. Now we do it on a requirement. So in Agile, you have to do this in a requirement software. So a requirement software, you have captured this. In addition to this, you can link this to another story. Okay, it could be add child issue. Then you can add a lot of attachments. In the attachment is where you're going to add your process map and wireframes. Wireframes are nothing but mockups or screens. Process maps are telling you the entire process flow. And sometimes you can also add some business rule document, etc. to this. Then you can also link. Then you will also here, I can add comments here. See, these are all the different people who are on the, they could be your team members to whom you can allocate, or sometimes you can just add a user story number also to this. So there are different ways of doing it. Idea is to give clarity. Now you've created a story. Sometimes you can add an epic. Epic is one level higher compared to user story writing. So an epic will have multiple stories. So you are looking at maybe search as an option, which is a feature. Under search feature, you will have multiple epics. Under multiple epics, you will have these search by price is only one such option. It could be an epic in itself, right? Then you will say search by rating, review rating, etc. All this will become different epics or stories in itself. The epic or whether it's a story depends on the effort that's involved. I hope you got a good understanding of how to write user story with more detailing. Even if nobody asks you, and if you can provide this level of detailing, nothing like it. Gives you complete clarity, and it will also help the developer. This piece, not many people do, varying ranges, but if you can practice BDD style of writing user stories, it's a lot more in depth. Okay, so what we will do, it's 11:03. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. Let's say 10-minute break. Come back in 10 minutes, and then we'll restart the session with some more examples. We'll do a use case session, and we'll take some Q&A. All right. Once we come back, we will again revisit some of the things we covered. Does that work? Is it okay? Let's start the session. What I'm doing here is basically giving you a glimpse into how this particular thing can become a wireframe. So wireframe you will develop like this. This is high fidelity wireframe. We'll also look at low fidelity wireframes in the next session. That's the next week. But this week we are going to, I'll see what is the next session. I think the next session we had planned, that is tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to look at tomorrow you're looking at use case and BRD writing. So use case and BRD, FRD, how do you write is what we will look at tomorrow. So here you're looking at why I'm adding this is so that you get clarity on how this can be, this is done. See, this is where I am giving you clarity so that even once you go back and refer to this at a later point in time, you'll be able to connect. So this is how you got to think when you write for your developers also. So this is what is called as product category page. This is product feature page or featured page. So when you read this scenario, you will understand that we're talking product category page and product featured page. These are the different scenarios This is the user story for which we wrote this. So I hope now you understand how to look at user action, user functionality, or what they have requested and convert that into a requirement. Where did we actually start? We started here, which says search products. Search products in itself is pretty complicated. When you're looking at search products, you can look by category, subcategory. You can look at sort by search results. You can also filter search results. So now we looked at only price. If you look at rating, it's a totally different flow altogether. So this way you will continuously build. So as a business analyst, you will be writing so many scenarios, and that will take a lot of time for you to build. All right. I hope you understood how to build a good user story here with some detailing. Now let's look at how. Question. Right. So use case we will cover tomorrow. Leave the use case to end. Now there are certain basic problems that happen while writing user stories. Lot of the times you will be surprised that we are not working in we may be working on technical products. That is a lot of products such as which are generating APIs, or there are some other data calls, asynchronous feeds. There could be other sort of maybe placing the or maybe some sort of data services. So when you're actually working in these kind of back-end applications and technical products, it is sometimes becomes very tricky. What is also told is that as a business analyst, understand and write more softer user stories, which has less of technical, more of an understanding on what the customer wants. This is called as customer-centric user stories, where even the developer is able to understand how to write these stories. Okay, so I will quickly explain a user journey format here. What is user journey? And then we will take it from there. Let me quickly pull up why you need to know about user journey. Explain. See, I'm doing it on the go because this is necessary for you to understand. This is called a user journey. Why you need to understand user journey? Because until unless you don't understand what the user wants, building requirements doesn't make sense at all. Okay, so that's why you need to understand what the customer wants. You're able to see my screen, right? And I think I'm audible now. I am not. Okay, I'm audible. It is also recording. So here you will see customer type 1. Not sure why. Hello.
I think shipper needs to go on.
Sorry, what was that? It's almost like somebody is saying something.
No, I was saying someone has unmuted herself. That's why we were getting echo.
Okay. Request everyone to go on mute, please. Thank you. So this is called user journey. You need to understand the user journey. Now there will be different use using your application. You need to understand those major user journeys. So if you understand the user journey, the customers using the application will feel a lot more comfortable using the application. Secondly, when you're doing the UAT testing also, once the user do it, that is the only way users will do the testing. They will try to create an order, then go through the entire flow. So you have to behave and think like a user. And therefore, you need to understand how the user or the customer works and interacts with the system. And this user journey could have offline touch points and also online touch points. Customer type 1, user signs up, user goes through onboarding, abandons tool. Second one, user signs up, goes through onboarding tool, continues tool as a free user. So these are different scenarios that can occur for different types. So understanding this user journey. Vishali, can you go on mute if you're not talking? Yeah? You want to ask something? You can actually type it, Vaishali. I'll mute you, okay? Because there is some disturbance. Drop a message, I will reply on that. So you need to understand this bit to be able to kind of build the flow. Okay, so understand this term called user is important. So once you understand this bit, even if they use some backend applications, now I'll give you one more scenario. It's called a service blueprint. Okay. I'm sure you can see the screen. Let me explain this scenario. What's happening here is, let's say you're going to a retail store. Okay, you want to purchase a washing machine. Before purchasing a washing machine, you're doing some amount of research on the internet. Which washing machine you want to buy, what is the price range, what are the features, etc. So a typical customer journey is also called user journey. You need to understand this. So user journey or the customer journey may start with, for example, your behavior. Let's say generally when we want to shop for washing machine, we may visit that website. And sometimes, let's say I like a Whirlpool or an IFB, I have some queries. So what do? I try to do a chat with the support team of IFB or Whirlpool. So there is a support chat system. There is also a support chat team which is interacting with that system while connecting with you. So you see there's an IT system and an IT team here. They are interacting with you. Now, as a customer, after you do the website search and get the inputs, you go to the store. You may visit a store like Chroma or Reliance Digital. Once you visit there, you will browse the appliances and you will meet the salesperson. What does the salesperson do? They will welcome you into the store. What you do next is you discuss the features, price, availability with the salesperson. The salesperson first checks the inventory and delivery times. After which you decide to make the purchase and make the payment. After you make the payment, the employee or the salesperson is going to confirm the exact date of delivery. Because after delivery, there is demo and other things being done or installation, etc. After that, once you leave that retail store, you will get a notification in the form of an SMS which comes to you saying that notifying the delivery date when it will reach you. And also the appliance gets delivered. So this is the customer journey that you are taking. You will see that it is mostly here where the touch point is happening, where they visit the website, they visit the support chat. They may also sometimes buy this online. Now, whatever is happening offline can be bought online. So you'll see that the customer journey is a combination of offline and online processes. So you are writing software requirements for all those online touch points, but it is important for you also to understand things from a customer's point of view. Why this is necessary? Let's say you are part of an inventory management system team. You're a business analyst who is supporting inventory management system, building requirements for inventory management system, and the requirement is probably given by somebody from inventory management team, but not the customer. So as a business analyst, you need to talk to them to also understand how this customer is going to interact with this application. So what is happening here is, let's say this happened on e-commerce site and they happen to make the payment. During the payment, they're interacting with point of sale system and the payment system. The payment system BA or a point of sale system BA, these are, when I say BA, they are actually working on these applications. They need to understand how this customer is behaving, how the business user is using this application to help the team. So there are multiple permutation and combinations. So this is the importance of understanding the customer journey. Once you understand the customer journey, then you will be able to write user stories in the user format or including the customer, making the customer or user actions inclusive in the story. Instead of telling, the API will make a call, it will retrieve the data related to order. You will say when the customer submits, the information is going to be made available on that particular e-commerce site through this particular job, something like that. And then you write the story. There's a lot more business scenario that is coming in, or the business language coming in, which makes the story softer. Also, the developers, the testers, anybody in the team will understand what value they are creating or what problems they're solving for the customer. So this is the latest thing in product management technique. Especially there's a lot of discussion around working in a product team, working in an agile product environment. Even the developer needs to know what problems they're solving for. That way developer can give better solution to the user problem. So let's look at one such scenario where this is going to change the way you write technical user stories. Okay, so the topic we're talking about is writing software stories with business or user context. An approach to shorter story writing with effective user context. So the user context is mostly missing here, a lot of the technical stories. Let's look at the first scenario. Here we are talking about a user story by the name Enhanced Part Validation or ABCD application. What do you mean by this? So here what's happening is there is a part validation story, which is a backend story where there's a part validation happening in a particular application. That is what you're capturing. So sometimes there is a, people may mess up by writing assumptions in the story and putting other information in the story. This is not required. So this is, so if you see the user story description is technical in nature. What it is not telling you is how is this story helping the user? Always remember there is a user always trying to achieve a goal. If I'm a user whose goal is to buy a book which is within 500 rupees and is related to a category called adventure topic, that is my goal as a user. How can my e-commerce application make it easier for that customer is what you need to understand, and then build stories accordingly or build the functionality accordingly. Here it does not tell how is it impacting the user. So you should relook at these technical stories. Sometimes it is not possible to convert the technical stories completely into user scenario. Not all the time. Maybe not possible in this particular scenario where you're saying part validation is happening. Let's look at it further and we'll debate it a little more. Okay, so here adding assumptions here, avoid adding assumptions in the middle of a story like a statement. So there was one such scenario like this. Again, coming back to given, when, then, which is a BDD, which is a behavior driven development kind of scenario, you will see that given a work order has been sent to the gateway from YBVC something. Okay, so a work order has been sent to the gateway. Okay, so the work order has to be sent by gateway, which is a precondition, and work order has completed the pre-workflow process. When the order is being validated during the ABC part validation task, see, all this have replaced. Okay, these are all some proprietary information. I've changed it just to keep it generic and still get to the point. So what is happening here is it's saying that order is being, when the order is being validated during the ABC part validation task of the workflow process, then workflow shall validate the X value of the ABC part. Okay, there is maybe a typo here, and populate. If the value is populated, the order shall pass part validation. So very technical in nature. What kind of questions you can have here? According to you, what kind of queries you can have? You know, for example, you are saying this is a part validation user story. Now you are asking, what is that part validation? What are you validating? How is it useful for the customer or user? Who is going to consume that information? Now, sometimes it is not necessarily the customer. Sometimes there may be internal customer. The internal customer could be somebody from the order management team. The order management processor is looking for some sort of a message to be displayed against a particular part number or an order number. For example, something, let's say you ordered a book. Let's say you ordered 10 books. One book had a part validation error. Therefore, as a customer, you will not be able to add that book into your cart. How do I write that as a story? As a backend story, probably I will say that there is a part validation issue or the inventory validation issue. Therefore, return a message saying that the inventory or the book part is not available. Right? So look at it. You should look at the backend scenario. You should look at the front end scenario. You should try to write a story in such a way that the user is involved in this all the time. If not the customer, somebody else is going to make use of this. See, order is being validated. Who is it useful for? Who is the user? The user could be a part, somebody in the order management team. So that part is missing here. Remember, my friends, that must be always included, which is missing in this technical story. Technical stories are very difficult to understand until and unless you have the product knowledge. Sometimes if you ask the developers what are they building, they won't know what they're building for. So you have to write stories which are easy to understand. Going forward, scenarios will come where you don't need any coding. There will be zero coding or minimum coding. Okay, and there will also be scenarios where you have to write user-centric stories. Right? So that is why all this is important to understand user scenario. Who is the user? A user story must always have a user mentioned. If that user action and system reaction is not mentioned, is not making much sense. It means you have not understood the business aspect or the business value involved in it. So what is the difference between you writing a story versus a technical person writing a story? No difference. Let's look at another scenario where we are talking about user story. Okay, so we are looking at user story where this is a pull request, request response kind of a scenario. Validation of data sent from xyz.com for order creation. Scenario 1, given the customer places real-time order, download eligible orders. Now you see, not just generic orders. Who places the order? Given the customer places real-time download eligible order in xyz.com, the xyz.com should send that order details with all mandatory fields, email address, region, country to ABC system through real-time API. So once the customer places an order in this particular application, when xyz.com sends the order details with all fields to ABC system through real-time API, then ABC system should perform null validation on these mandatory fields and send failure status with failure reason to xyz.com. That is, if some error has to occur and it has to display on amazon.com for the user, there is a backend validation that is happening. You are basically saying, firstly, user is performing an action, system is giving a reaction. Remember that user has to perform an action for the system to give a reaction. So both are there. When customer is placing a real-time order on xyz.com, if something happens, then send the failure status with failure reason to xyz.com. The customer is able to see. The user story description is softer in nature and brings more business sense to tech-heavy stories. The scenario includes user action and system behavior based on the user action, which gives complete perspective on the story. Now you see how you can fine-tune your technical stories to involve users. Once you involve users, you understand the value the story brings to the user or the customer. Not the customer, it's the user. As IT teams or as business analysts, you have to look at users. Okay, so this way you can improve the quality of your story writing. All right. So we looked at these scenarios where you are first of all capturing stories, then you are understanding the sizing of the story to call it an epic, or whether it is a feature, then you are calling it an epic, or whether it is a story. Depending on the complexity, the lingo will change. Whether it is a feature, after feature comes, before feature comes minimum business increment, then comes feature, then comes sub features, or it's called epic. Under epic, you will have multiple stories. Under stories, you can have multiple scenarios. Having more scenarios helps your developer. Okay, so this is what I wanted to capture as part of requirements. You give me one more example if you want to. We will work on that to explain the importance of building these requirements. Okay. Any questions so far? So we look at requirement management. How do you do requirements? How do you build a requirement? How do you, so this topic which you are seeing here is nothing but story mapping. Story mapping.
I have a question. Can I?
Correct.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know, like, are we as business analysts should write technical user stories? By that I mean that when there's a database change, or maybe there are some new APIs coming in.
Depends.
So, right. So
Depends, right? Because if you are working on a technical product, and if your team is saying, hey, there's nobody else to write a technical story, you need to write a technical story. If you're not qualified enough, maybe you can take help of some technical person to write the story or get it validated. Not necessary. There's no hard and depends on the company you're working in, depends on the team you're working in, the kind of product.
okay. Sure. Thank you.
But what happens is you got to dirty your hands in all these ways, because when you become a senior business analyst, how are you going to help people when you get into these kind of scenarios? So understand and try out as many things as possible. So when you're a young or a new business analyst, you tend to play a little safe by not, exploring a lot of things. This is the time learn and make mistakes. Then you actually, kind of become comfortable with everything. For example, how does API work? How to write stories for API? How do I write, maybe stories for some sort of data migration stories? These kind of things. So it's
Right. That's what answered me.
so see, again, coming back to this is also called as story mapping, right? I will say explore story mapping. Story mapping is the same thing where broadly you're trying to understand what are you trying to build. So let me give you another lame example with story mapping. So let's create a recipe, right? Okay, so now we'll create a bhel puri. Okay, we'll write stories for bhel puri. So now all of you have to help me understand how to create this bhel puri. Okay, what are the main things that you need to have to create bhel puri or to make bhel puri? What all do you need? Here everybody can speak.
Types of namkeen.
What do you need?
Rice.
Huh?
Different types of bhujia, namkeen, etc. Yeah.
You need bhujia. Okay. Okay, what is bhujia? Bhujia is ingredients. Correct?
Right.
So I will not direct. So for me, now I'm trying to structure it. Now you're saying bhujia. What else?
Half the rice.
Soft rice. What else?
Spices, lemon.
Or what else?
Maybe some veggies, etc. Yeah.
What else is required?
Something wherein it will be served. So maybe a cup or a paper roll or something.
So utensils is a broad category.
Mhm.
Correct. So you will need a ladle, basically mix stuff. You will need spoons. Then you will need plates. Then you need bowl. Then you need okay, so let's say this is what you need. What else will you need?
Somewhere it can be, yeah. Kept.
So you see, it cannot do away with structure. It has to have structure. Okay, so let's say we wanted water, hand towel. Else we need bhujia, puffed rice. So this is the ingredients part. You have the utensils part. You have the support part. You don't need heat. Nothing. You don't need that.
Maybe a table to keep all this stuff.
Table. Okay. Correct. So you see, this is how you need to think when you're writing features, when you're writing stories, right? Think what are the different things that are possible. So until unless you go through the user flow or user journey, you will not understand that. Because somebody suddenly comes and say give requirement. If you write requirements, how do you write bhel puri? Bhel puri, if you just put bhujia, puffed rice, lemon, mix it and serve it, it will not work. Okay, you have to mention all this because these are all basic, all become elements of this whole experience called bhel puri. Creating a bhel puri, creating bhel puri. Okay, so here, what are the user actions?
Mixing.
Ingredients. Procuring ingredients, correct? Then
Yes.
say procuring support equipments, procuring utensils. So devil is in the details. The more detailed you get, the more structure you bring. We said procuring ingredients, procuring support equipments, process procuring utensils, mixing ingredients. After mixing ingredients, we are also saying you are mixing ingredients,
Serving.
serving. Okay, you can also add little bit of whatever tikka chutney, sweet chutney. You can also change a lot of things. So that can also happen as change request. Okay, so these are all different scenarios you can look at. So this is procuring ingredients. Let's say it's an epic. Under procuring ingredients, what you will say? Procure bhujia. Okay. What kind of bhujia? Coming to that. Give me one moment. This will become a user story. Procure bhujia. What else do you have to procure? Okay, let's say bhujia itself. Procure bhujia. So what is the user story here you're saying? What are the conditions for procuring bhujia? What else you are going to look for? What quantity of bhujia? One is quantity.
Size, maybe say zero size, something like that.
Okay, quantity. Then you're saying maybe color or flavor, right?
Yeah.
And what else? We'll also look at maybe spice levels.
And also the brand.
So these are all the things that you look at before buying the bhujia. So you see, we are actually getting more granular. So you will have to make an assumption what kind of stories you can write. Now, the task is procuring bhujia. Okay, it's a feature. Procuring bhujia, what you will do? As a, not as a user, as a procurer. You see, as a procurer, to purchase bhujia so that bhel puri can be prepared. Make sense? Correct, no?
Yes.
You have to tell me how to make the bhel puri now. You have to tell if I'm writing the story correctly or not. Now we wrote as a procurer, I want to purchase bhujia. Now see why I'm trying to make this very mundane, I'm not getting very technical with this is you will anyway deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But if you understand this simply like this, it is a lot more easier to break down things. Okay, understand things in a certain format. Now, this story will actually stick with you. Next time you try to write a story, this Belpuri story will stick with you. Okay, that is the power of storytelling. So we are looking at Bhujia. Now I'm telling, as a procurer, I want to purchase Bhujia. As a procurer, I want to purchase Bhujia of Bikaji brand, so that okay, so here I can, yeah, so Bikaji brand, so that Belpuri, so that high quality Belpuri can be prepared. This is one story. And I'm saying I want to, as a procurer, I want to purchase so that so you see how I'm trying to bring clarity, bring more specificity. We looked at all this. I'm trying to capture it. Actually, I can even change this to given when then. I'm still breaking this down to, smaller stories. This can be an epic.
So is it fine like if certain user stories are created just to like keep it into smaller keep them for the smaller intent, but we are making it to clarify the business reasons, but there is nothing to develop in those user stories. So do you think that are relevant to keep in an epic?
No, I think your project manager or scrum master may not agree, or they may not even pick those stories. See, they pick stories which will basically development effort. So
That is what
you are going to envision. So basically, if you are working in the IT space, see, this could be used in non-IT conditions. If in the IT conditions, you have to definitely imagine, if I'm going to order Bikaji 1 kg by brand on the website, or if the user is interacting with the application in some way. Only keeping that in mind, you have to create. If you are writing offline scenarios, it is for example mapping. It is good for process mapping. When you create your process maps, you can definitely create that scenario. You don't necessarily have to write stories.
Yeah.
See, that story is just wasted. You can't even link it to anything. Nobody.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So wherever there is coding involved, only that will be considered as a user story. So this is making sense, right? You're looking at something big, bringing it specifically. Now I can take, I can even call this a story and then make all these scenarios. Or I can pick this as a story. Okay. Now tell me, if I pick this as a story, the second one, if I pick high quality Belpuri has to be prepared and I have to purchase Bhujia of Bikaji brand, how can I build scenarios into it? What kind of scenarios can occur for this story? Are you there with me? So understand, as a procurer, I want to purchase Bhujia of Bikaji brand so that high quality Belpuri can be prepared. But Bikaji can have 10 different categories, na? I have to say I want to purchase methi flavor Bikaji brand bhujia. I want to purchase bhujia with calorie content blah blah blah. I want to purchase bhujia with a manufacturing date not greater than or not less than something. Correct? I want to procure Bikaji brand maybe with an offer. No, buy one get one or something. That is a corner case. So you see, I can have scenarios even just for bhujia of Bikaji brand itself. Making sense? You have to talk.
Yep, makes sense.
Makes sense, right? So depth can be given. So you take a story, bhujia of a Bikaji brand also, you will say whether methi flavor, all these. So basically, you have to understand story and then scenarios. So the amount of effort that the BA has to put in an agile, scenario, and so much more in a behavior-driven development kind of story scenario is much more. So the amount of effort and time it takes to write these kind of stories and scenarios is a lot. Earlier, BAs or PAs used to just put user story or epic level and then just give you maybe some wireframes or explain through process maps. And then it was left to the imagination of the developer. In behavior-driven development, there's less of testing by testers. There's more work for developers, business analysts, or POs. So this is the difference. This is the depth that you can bring into your user stories. So I think I've given you enough information related to story mapping. Story mapping starts with what are those high-level tasks or jobs that a user needs to achieve. Those become higher headers. I want to search, I want to select, add to cart, I want to make, to return it. All these are high-level user goals. These user goals could be features. This feature is then broken down into epics to user stories. User stories can have your wireframes, process maps, as well as scenarios. You can also add examples, which is called example mapping. For example, you want to show if you purchase a certain category of product, how will it look? What is the different scenario? What should be the cost price? What should be the GST, etc. That is a given scenario. It may not be applicable everywhere. The idea is to give as much spoon feeding, as much detailing as possible, so that developers find it easier to code. The more specific you are, it makes the developer's life easier, and it brings a lot more value to you as a business analyst. Okay, so this is pretty much what I wanted to cover today, this story mapping technique. So we took the Belpuri example. Here also search products. You can break this down to granularity, then adding cart also to granularity. So you see, you can start building from here. You can build a lot of subsections. When you build subsections, this is how you start populating your product backlog with user stories. Or sometimes, first when you meet the customer first time and you spend 1 week or 1.5 weeks with them, you are just capturing epics. You're not even getting into details. You come back, then you pick a few epics which are priority or important, go back to that customer, discuss in detail how it has to work. Then comes the stories within each of these epics. Then you write stories, scenarios, and get ready. So always you are going to prepare 2 sprints ahead. So you'll have enough stories. So every time you do grooming or tell the developer, you're already ready for the next sprint and writing for the sprint after that. So at least N+2, you are going to be ready. So your story writing begins 2 sprints ahead. Okay, so this is a way to look at any sort of requirements, understand user goals, understand what are the basic high-level features, understand how the features can become sub-features, sub-features can become sub-features. These are basically features, epics, and stories. Stories then can become scenarios. Add any amount of supporting information you want to.
I have a question. Like
Yes.
in general scenario, is there a possibility that we are going and getting the user stories reviewed by the end users by any chance? Like I know
Oh,
this
yes, yes,
can
that
be a
happens. That has to happen.
okay. Okay.
There are a lot of teams and organizations which encourage that. You have to
Okay.
go back, get that validated. Once you write the stories, it's a good process to go back to the business owner or the person who gives the requirements, get it validated.
So in that sense, because generally there is not much time to get them validated or walk through with the different teams
So what you have to do,
separately.
what you have to do, this is another skill. In 30
Mhm.
minutes, I should be able to achieve a lot more. Then you need to ask a question, how can I do it? That needs visual representation. That means you need to have wireframing. Have wireframes ready with you. When you're talking about the particular feature, quickly walk them through that this particular wireframe, we are capturing stories for this functionality. First level, it gives clarity to the customer immediately. So it takes about 3-4 minutes. Then as you're reading through the stories, it actually syncs with the customer, and then you are able to do justice. If you don't share it, get onto the call, do screen share, explain and walk them through the stories quickly.
And should we also think in for getting sign-offs? Like, are they responsible for that?
See, again, you can create a new process like that. It is always
Okay.
a sign off from them. So there are 2-3 ways, right? One is putting it on an Excel sheet, just walk through, get a confirmation from them, or requirement management software like Jira, Rally, your Azure DevOps also have the feature or functionality where you can assign that story to the customer to get a sign off
Correct.
or update.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so it again depends
Sure.
on
Thank you.
how processes are being followed. Some companies and teams follow it very rigidly, some don't.
Mhm.
Okay, so it all depends.
I
But
mean, this can be suggested at least
yes,
because my current organization is following the method, but I'm
Hmm.
not sure how in the general standards it works. So yeah.
Generally you have to get the sign off from the users.
Okay. Okay.
So you at least know there is some clarity in terms of for that sprint, and these stories are really working, because then when you do the demo later on also you will have lesser feedbacks, lesser.
Makes sense.
So that's pretty much for today. Tomorrow we will do more on BRD, how to create excellent BRD documentation. This will also expose you to how to, create different sections. So what used to happen earlier was while doing business requirement documentation, a business analyst had more control over all the requirements. Now, because of a lot of decentralization and because of a lot of requirement tools that have come into the picture, there's less control for the BA. So you will understand how to create a business requirement document or even functional requirement document. You'll also look at how to look at non-functional requirement, not only functional requirements, how to look at non-functional requirements, which usually the technical person collects. So what are the best practices? How to create a good a business requirement documentation is what we will do tomorrow. And if time is there, we'll try to get into process mapping. Else we will move it to the next Saturday. So next Saturday, we'll focus on process mapping wireframe. Tomorrow, it's mostly documentation work, how to do good, excellent documentation. Right. So thanks for being on the call. Let's
Thank you
connect
so much.
tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant.